Hey everyone, Chris Lewis from Fox 47's Digital Newsroom. Today I'm really excited to be with Dr. Christopher Tremblay, who is a Lansing resident here. He is the Director of External Engagement for the Michigan College Access Network, but he's also a professor down at Western Michigan University. And for the last 5 years, he's been teaching a really innovative course called Walts Pilgrimage. And Walts Pilgrimage is a course that allows students to be able to really delve deeper into who Walt Disney was. So we're going to talk to Christopher today to talk a little bit more about this course, what brought him into the course, and let you get a little bit better perspective of what the students are learning. Good morning, Christopher.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for being with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this course, and how you decided to start teaching this course?
Sure. The idea for this course came about when I was visiting the Treasures of the Walt Disney Archives exhibit in Chicago in the same month that the Walt Disney birthplace in Chicago announced a Kickstarter fundraiser to restore the house where Walt Disney was born. And so the combination of these two initiatives caused me to think that it was time to take a road trip to Marceline, Missouri, also a place where Walt Disney grew up. And so I was going to grab a couple of friends, maybe take a road trip, and then I mentioned the idea to my colleague Jules Kuntz at WMU, and she suggested that I pitch it as a Study in the States course through Western Michigan University's Lee Honors College. And I put together the proposal, it was accepted, and I've been teaching the course now for 5 years.
Well, it sounds really exciting, and definitely as a Disney buff myself, I definitely love the whole concept of getting to better understand this man that created so many things and has provided so much joy for so many people. Now, as you've been bringing different groups, this is your 5th year going, what do you personally learn each time that you go?
Well, every year I do pick up some new tidbits about things that Walt Disney was involved in. For example, when we're at the studios, I'm reminded about the time when, the U.S. military kind of took over the studios and used it as base. I'm reminded about the time that, Walt Disney's employees and cast members at the studio went on strike because they were unhappy with the environment. Again, reminders that Walt Disney was a human being and faced some challenges that we all face today. Even though he was a dreamer and a creator, he experienced hardship, in his life. And so when we visit, for example, Kansas City, we're reminded of the time that he went bankrupt when he had created the Laugh-O-Gram Film Studio. And so we visit that site, and you can see the state of the building, and it's an opportunity for restoration.
Now, I know that this also has spurred a book that you've written about Walt Disney's life and kind of his pilgrimage himself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey for yourself?
Sure. So after teaching the class for a couple of years and only being able to take 8 students each year in this course, I realized that there were probably more people out there, Disney fans, who would love to learn about Walt Disney's life by following in his footsteps. And so after collecting and researching all of this information for several years, I decided to start writing and published a book in September of 2017 called Walts Pilgrimage. And it's part travel guide, it's part reference, it's part biography, but it's an opportunity to visit the more than 270 sites throughout the United States that have some sort of Walt Disney connection, either a place where he lived, worked, or played. And then that book has since spawned 5 other Walt Disney themed books that I've written to share more information about his life and to celebrate the impact that he's had on the world.
Now, for you, I mean, I can tell that you are a Disney fan, and what made you a Disney fan, and what made you decide that you wanted to learn more about this?
So lots of things. First and foremost, I have my parents to thank for raising me on Disney. So I grew up, reading the Disney books, seeing the movies, having the Mickey Mouse, nightlight in my bedroom growing up, and then 2 really big visits to Walt Disney World when I was 5 and when I was 7, I think really planted the seed to be immersed in Walt's lands, right? The things that he created, the dreams and visions that he had. And so then growing up, every time I had an opportunity to do a school paper on, Disney or Walt Disney, I would take that opportunity. I wrote my senior honors thesis through the WMU Lee Honors College on a Disney topic, have presented at conferences on Disney, so it's always been a part of me. And as I dove into, really learning about Walt Disney, kind of the man behind the myth, it's been really fascinating to reveal different aspects of his life. I even had the opportunity to meet Walt's son-in-law, Ron Miller, who wrote the foreword to my book, and unfortunately Ron just passed away this past February. But to be able to hear firsthand from somebody that grew up and worked for Walt and was a part of Walt's family has been a pretty cool experience.
Now for you, you've been researching this for a while, learning about it for barely even longer. What have been some of the most surprising things that you've learned about Walt that some of us might not be aware of?
Sure. So one of the kind of cool and surprising things that you discover, especially when you start learning about Marceline, Missouri, where Walt spent some of his formative years, is that at one point Walt was going to build an attraction in Marceline, Missouri, and it was referred to as the Marceline Project. And so it was going to be on the site of the Disney family farm where Walt grew up, where you could kind of go back in time, kind of Greenfield Village-like, if you will, for those of us from Michigan. And in fact, Walt had donated the Disneyland Midget Autopia ride to Marceline to have as an attraction there. But because of Walt's death, and because of the priority of constructing the Walt Disney World Resort along with the California Institute of Arts, which is a 4-year university that Walt Disney helped start in California, that project never came to be. But the Walt Disney Hometown Museum is working on bringing back the Midget Autopia ride as part of what they offer in Marceline.
Now, one of the things that I'm sure that you get to really enjoy is to see and experience the wonder on some of the students' faces. What do you hope that students are taking from this experience?
Yes, there's no question that probably the greatest joy in teaching this class is watching the students experience the different sites and places that have a Walt Disney connection. In fact, I often refer to it as every day is like Christmas morning because there's a new Walt Disney adventure that awaits us, in that day. In terms of what I hope that they take away, I hope they take away an appreciation for the lifelong commitment that Walt Disney had to pursuing his passion. And the different ways that he was a dreamer and an innovator. And so you see all the different things that he touched, whether it was the film industry, the theme park industry, again, even, creating a college or university, even talking about how, Epcot, not the Epcot that we know as a theme park today, but Epcot as this utopian city. Walt was very much a visionary in thinking about the future and, different things like that.
Now, you talked about that this project has spurned a number of different books. It's allowed for you to be able to kind of continue your own research. Are there future projects that you have in the works?
Absolutely. So I'm currently working on a book that pays tribute to Walt Disney's father, Elias Disney, and so that's going to be probably coming out within the next year. I just most recently published Walt's Ancestors, which really gives you a taste of where Walt's family came from. A lot of people don't realize that Walt Disney actually has a lot of Midwest roots. So Walt Disney himself was born in Chicago, and so on Thursday I'll be taking the students to the birthplace, and we'll actually be in the room where Walt Disney was born. Walt Disney's father was born in Blue Vale, Ontario, so just across the border. And then Walt's mother was born in Steuben, Ohio. And then obviously Walt's family moved to Marceline. So again, there's a lot of Walt Disney connections, locally or in the Midwest. Here in Michigan, you can actually visit the Gilmore Car Museum in Hickory Corners and actually see a part of a Disney set piece from the movie The Gnome-Mobile. Because Walt Disney was friends with Don Gilmore, and Don wanted to buy the Rolls Royce that was featured in the movie. he did, and then Walt threw in the set piece. And so there's a little bit of Disney connection here. And Walt visited Michigan several times, during the later part of his life.
Well, everyone, we've been talking to Dr. Christopher Tremblay about his upcoming trip with students from Western Michigan University called Walts Pilgrimage. And this is a great experience. Dr. Tremblay, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for everything that you're doing to allow people to better understand who Walt Disney was, not just what he built, but who he was as a person as well.
Thank you.